All right, Nassau County residents, we're coming to you live from Mineola, and there is a vigil scheduled for the killing of Tyree Nichols. It's a vigil, and it's also a rally for change. There's Attorney Fred Brewington.
Mr. McKenna.
Inspector, how are you, sir? Good to see you. I just have to make sure there's no blonde women here. You know what I mean? AKA the witch. We're going to try to get Mr. Brewington on camera. Fred Brewington is a well-respected, high-profile civil attorney here in Nassau County.
When you have a commissioner that won't agree that race is an issue, not that their police are racist necessarily, but that race is an issue. When you don't come to grips with that fact, you've got a problem. That's the problem. You can't oversimplify the problem. But we should look at it as a major issue.
These are Nassau County crime statistics. They have a microphone here, so I'm sure there's going to be speakers.
Sit down at the table and talk. Talk doesn't do any harm unless you're afraid of it. And that's the problem with Nassau County. They are afraid. Well, the county can start entering into a real conversation, not shadow boxing, a real conversation that really allows the issues that exist in Nassau County to be changed. reform under Executive Order 203 was intended to bring about systemic and systematic change within the culture of policing. The institutions of policing in Nassau County are still operating as though they're in the late 19th and sometimes in the early 20th century. Simply because they have body cameras doesn't mean we've arrived into the 21st century. We've got a lot of work to do, and we need leaders in policing and leaders in government who've got the, I can't say it, who have the chutzpah to stand up and say we need change, and not just yield to police unions, not just yield to commonalities and statements by people and organizations like the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers. We need to step up and say, if we want America to be what it was intended to be, land of the free and home of the brave and all that, we need to start acting like it.
Okay. Anything else you think?
I think that's it.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Brewington, how are you, sir? It's always good to see you. I'm so sorry to see you on this.
Yeah, well, it's not an easy occasion for us to be here, but it's an important occasion. And I just want to thank you for the work that you do. You are vigilant, and I know as a result of that, you've taken some hits. But I just want to let you know that I recognize that you are out there trying to get truth into the airwaves, and your work is really appreciated.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I don't know whether you're aware of this. You're probably not, but I'm going to take this opportunity right now to tell my followers that back in 2005, I was pulled over in a DWI stop, and I admit that I was drunk,
Okay.
and I was found guilty.
Okay.
I went to trial and I was found guilty. But when I was asked to put my hands behind my back because I was drunk, I did not comply immediately. I actually asked the cops a simple question, and they immediately attacked me, threw me to the ground out in Northport, Suffolk County. I was thrown to the ground. It was 1 a.m. in the morning, and I was thrown face down. I was immediately handcuffed, and I was proceeded to be beaten. One officer grabbed the hair from behind my head, continued to slam my face on the pavement, while another officer beat me with a stick. And I actually thought that I was being killed. And I haven't shared that with anybody since then, but when I watched the video of this incident the other day, I was sickened. It gave me flashbacks. And it happens more than people hear about it.
And let me just pick up on that. First of all, I'm so sorry that you experienced that. And that's a real life situation that a lot of people don't realize happens to a lot of people more often than we would want it to happen.
Right.
And in this situation, what we are seeing on this video shocks the conscience, but that's not good enough. It needs to shock the soul. We need to start to change the soul of America so that life that has been taken away has enormous value to all of us. Not just sorry to the family,
Right.
We should feel it in ourselves. So I'm encouraging you to stay steadfast, and all your listeners and all your viewers the same. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and it's always great to see you. God bless you. Okay, thank you. All right, folks. I'm gonna start a brand new video as soon as the speakers start speaking. We're coming to you live from Mineola, right here on Old Country Road. That happens to be the second precinct inspector, Gustav Callan. Actually, they're starting. I'm going to keep going.
Come a little closer.
I'm going to keep it going then.
This works better if we can see each other and hear each other. Thanks for media for coming out as well. We appreciate the coverage. This is important. All right, so
Got News 12.
Okay.
Tyre Nichols. Say his name.
Tyre Nichols.
Say his name.
Tyre Nichols.
And here we are again, after another senseless murder in our communities at the hands of law enforcement. Tyre Nichols should be in the loving embrace of his parents right now, and instead he is with the ancestors watching us from afar. Tyre was a beloved and kind soul. A mother and father have lost their son, and the child will never see their father again. We lost a beautiful member of our community, and we are all heartbroken. When does our outrage end? When does police violence cease to exist in our communities? We are tired of being stopped, chased, beaten, and murdered at the hands of law enforcement officers. We are tired of the demands for justice and accountability that continue to fall on deaf ears and political and legislative inaction. There's no resistance to reform. There is an outright unwillingness by all police departments throughout the country to enforce that reform and accountability within their ranks. Less than 3 years after the horrific death of George Floyd, here we are again witnessing the failures of police and government leaders who have not taken any significant action to stop police violence in our communities. Tyre Nichols should be alive today. He should be taking pictures and skateboarding and living his best life. He should be hugging up on his parents and loving up on his son. These charges against these 5 officers, they alone do not bring us to justice. Change will bring us to justice. Yeah. Police culture allows for excessive force and brutality against people of color, regardless of the color of the officer. Violence is natural to the conduct of law enforcement. Enforcement and reform and accountability measures are the missing ingredient to creating the change that we so desperately need in our communities. Perhaps it's also time to start discuss removing some of their responsibilities because they cannot be trusted to overcome their implicit and trained bias.
Hello, somebody. That's right. That's right.
Things like traffic enforcement, mental health crisis response, homelessness. They have no business tending to these issues because they cannot do so without violence. There has been a continued loss of legitimacy and respect for law enforcement throughout the nation because we know that systems of oppression will continue to oppress. A tiger can't change its stripes, just like a scorpion cannot be trusted. It will kill you when it has the opportunity, and that's what we witnessed in the video with Tyre Nichols. We must remove these officers and these special units from our streets. Today we are all hurting. We are all scared. We are all angry and heartbroken. And we are all left with this one question. Who do we call when the police are the murderers? Any effort to separate these officers who murdered Tyre Nichols from the policing system that produced them is disingenuous at best. These men were acting exactly like police officers. Brutal, violent, above the law, with impunity. What we saw in those videos is the reality for so many black and brown people across this nation. Police are killing us at record highs, disproportionately black.
And those levels of violence against our community have only been met with more funding at the expense of our schools, our hospitals, our housing, and even more. The time for soft talking and slow walking of reform and accountability measures are at an end. Enforcement is the new era, and we must sprint towards it. Honesty about police issues and their unwillingness to address them must be laid bare for all to see. Swift review and action is the model by which we now move forward. No more waiting for justice. Rest in power, Tyree, and love and strength to your family.
Thank you, Gary. Gary is a community leader from Suffolk County. Thank you for sharing those words. So, my name is Jeremy Joseph. I'm a member of LI United to transform policing and community safety. We've gathered many activists and organizers that have been working in both statewide and local spaces, specifically on policing issues. This work never goes away, and every so often we are brutally reminded of the consequences of when that work does not reach completion. And who knows when that end is, but we want to work towards it. Now, as for today, this is not an action, okay? Everyone here, you came out because you care enough to act, but we will tell you ways in which you can make an impact. So your first step today, we'll be asking you at certain points to take some actions. The easy ones will be on your phone. The more important ones will come after today. Because all the power structures, the politicians, the police departments that we are decrying, they don't mind that we're here. They're fine with us speaking to each other, calling it a day, and resuming normal lives. The only thing that challenges them is what we do afterwards. So please, do not watch. This is a moment for participation. All right, so first up, the practice. And this will be a good start. I have Darlene McDay. She is a co-lead for a statewide advocacy group for ending qualified immunity, NQI.
Hello, everyone. My name is Darlene McDay. I co-lead the campaign to end qualified immunity in New York, NQI. Before I start today, I have to get something out. That is a pain of a mother when she is told that her child is dead. That was a pain that I felt and still feel 5 days after 5 years after my son was beaten by officers. This is about Tyree Nichols today. This is about the need for change. This is about the need for action. Words are not enough. I do not want to hear the words of one more person that says their heart breaks and moves on. I do not want to hear the words of one more person that swears that this hurts them to the core and does nothing. Tyree Nichols' murder was on camera. It was on camera because, thank God, there was a camera on a lamppost. There are so many murders that happened. My son's beating happened without being caught on camera. After 5 years, I am still trying to get some sort of justice. These things take long. There are so many families that have not gotten justice, that the deaths of their loved ones were not caught on camera, that the police or other officers were able to make up stories and stick together, that this blue wall has prevented people from actually getting accountability. Now I'm here today as co-lead of the Campaign to End Qualified Immunity. So I just want to set the record straight. First of all, people are very misinformed of what qualified immunity is. The vast majority of people do not know or are confused about what it is. Last week, our governor made statements that she was against the repeal, but at the same time made statements that she would not tolerate misconduct and wanted accountability. You cannot have it both ways. Qualified immunity is a made-up doctrine. It was not a law passed by any legislature. Congress gave us the right back in the 60s to sue public officials that violated our rights. In the United States, we're supposed to have rights, civil rights, and we want our government officials to protect those rights. Qualified immunity prevents that. Qualified immunity is a judge legislating from the bench, made up by a Supreme Court back when Jim Crow laws were still going on, and they're going on today.
That's right.
We need people to be informed, to understand what qualified immunity actually is, how it affects our communities, and how it's killing people. Immunity equals impunity.
Yep.
Immunity shields accountability. Qualified immunity needs to go. This year, we are going to make sure that in New York, qualified immunity ends. I need all of you to let your legislators know that you will no longer stand for the injustices and no longer stand for the abuses. And if police departments want to come to the table and speak to us about what qualified immunity is, we will let them know, because they do not know. Those police talking points about what qualified immunity is are garbage. They don't even know what it is. So I'm asking all of you today to first take actions, as Jerry said, and secondly, don't make this your last action. I need action every single day.
Yeah.
Action for all of those families that have lost their loved ones, that don't have the ability to have protests in the street every day. Action for the mothers that are suffering in silence. This cannot continue to happen. Tyre Nichols lost his life. Do not let that go in vain. George Floyd lost his life. There were protests in the street. And what did we get for it? Nothing. We got nothing. And we will no longer stand for getting nothing. End qualified immunity now.
Okay, so here's the action part. Turn big your phones out, and what's the phone number?
Open up your text message.
All right, text message. Hey, you want to come get the instructions?
Okay. 50409. Do it, Kat.
All right, so text 50409. We're not going to move on until everyone's done this. So don't pretend to be on your phone. I want you to text us. And say it again?
50409.
50409. That's the message, right?
That's the number.
That's the number,
And the
sorry.
message It is ENDQINY. ENDQINY.
The message is ENDQINY, as you can see down here on the sign. And that was not clear enough for you. Come to the table afterwards, and they'll be happy to walk you through it. While you're doing that, I'm going to talk a little bit more. This is a statewide bill. This has strong support from Democrats around the state. Now, in Nassau County, all of the state senators and assembly people that support qualified immunity are here with us today. If you can look around and find one, please let me know. So that tells you how much work that we have to do. Every one of our representatives that does not support accountability in the form of ending qualified immunity. This is a basic ask. It's incredible. And this is on us to ask and demand that they co-sponsor this bill. All right, so I think everyone's mostly wrapping up. Again, please, if you did not get it, come to the table afterwards. And even beyond that, sign up. They're happy to get you connected with more information and how you can help the campaign. All right, so next I have Susan Goddard. She is a member of LI United, along with myself, and she'll have a lot of information to share that I hope you'll find interesting and disturbing as well.
Susan Goddard is the chair of the Nassau County Civil Liberties Union.
My name is Susan Goddard. I'm a member of Long Island United to Transform Policing and Community Safety. We are here in memory of Tyre Nichols today, and we stand with his family in our hearts. There are no words to describe what we saw on that video and what we felt in our guts as we watched it. To know that not only did it happen, but that it happens all over America every day to a different extent. And that it happens because of toxic policing culture that not only allows it, but nourishes it. A culture that was born from the stench of slave patrols that were meant to protect white property that came in the form of black bodies. And this toxic culture is nourished and allowed through impunity. It is nourished at police conventions where speakers speak paramilitarily, and the equipment that is there is military equipment that needs to all be investigated as far as the culture of policing goes. It is nourished by the Department of Justice, Cops Division, and their training manuals that refer to people who commit crimes as wolves. It is embedded in places where nobody is looking, and we need to look in these places. It is nourished through predictive policing and hotspot policing that is looking for gang members and using stops, traffic stops, as a tool, as a pretextual tool to find people, gang members, and crimes. And it is nourished in an ingrained institutional attitude that we are not to question law enforcement. And asking for transparency and accountability is the same thing as attacking them. It is nourished by legislators who carry that message forward to the public. It is exactly as Colonel Nathan Jessup described in A Few Good Men, as he lawlessly sneered, "I have neither the time nor the inclination to explain myself to a man who rises and sleeps under the blanket of the very freedom that I provide, and then questions the manner in which I provide it. I would rather you just said thank you and be on your way." That seems to be the attitude when we ask for transparency and accountability. The entire country took to the streets after George Floyd was murdered in 2020. The Nassau County Police Department was required to submit a police reform plan, which they did. And we are disgusted to report that after 2 years, nothing has changed. In Nassau County, Black people are 2.3 to 5.7 times more likely to be arrested, 2.4 to 5.1 times more likely to be subjected to field interviews, and 3.9 to 8 times more likely to be subjected to use of force. Between 2021 and 2022, there were 440 incidences of use of force in Nassau County. Think about that. And only 99 resulted in arrest. What that means is that 341 people were subjected to use of force with no lawful outcome regarding anything they may have been doing wrong. We all need to think about that. We know that traffic stops are used pretextually, and they are approaching the model of warrior policing instead of guardian policing, and this must stop. There is zero oversight over law enforcement, zero. The Nassau County Police Department investigates itself and answers to nobody. They dig their heels in on foils. They will only give founded results from complaints. They do not answer people when they put in complaints. And the commanders are investigating their subordinates. And you know what? There's a rule in the Nassau County Police Department that commanders are responsible for their subordinates' behavior. So what, do I need to spell it out?
Nope.
We don't need a death in Nassau County to know that things are messed up here. Let's not wait for one. Please join Long Island United. Please join LIAPFA. Please join End Qualified Immunity. There are a lot of pieces to this, and we need your help. Please join now, and don't go away when this press media dies down. We need help all the time. Please sign up. Thank you.
So, to give you the other side of this, we know what we've been fighting for at LI United. I think it's important that you hear what our county legislators think about our efforts. They think about what they think about our policing here. So 2 years ago, so I'm going to speak for a little bit now, just so you know. 2 years ago, we had activists and organizers from groups all around Long Island come together to put together the People's Plan. And this was a long wish list of nothing quite revolutionary, maybe for Nassau County, but tried and true police practices around the country. Things that wouldn't even necessarily create the changes we're looking for, but at least shine a light on what's happening in our policing. And they took to this and thought that saw it as an attack. When you see transparency as an attack, that shines a light on what you're doing. So the only things that the county legislators agreed to, well, it wasn't much. It was biannual data reporting, and the police would have to put up a website, and there's something else. And those were their only requirements, and they all pat themselves on the back and said, hey, look, we did a good job. 2 years later, we've had a review, a meeting in November, and we came with statistics, with reports, how all of these systems had been failing, how the police hadn't even met these bare minimum requirements. And, well, let me tell you what some of the responses were. From the legislators. The police, they were combative. They took our sharing of information as a tax. But let me read these are some quotes from Nassau County legislators just a few months ago. And what we said was not much different than what Susan said, except much nicer, right? All right, quote number one, legislator. What I would like to hear when we have these public hearings, more positive feedback coming from the community. Because just to complain that everything's bad is so wrong. Really, those people are out there protecting our community, putting their life out there. What about saying thank you?
Can't you tell us who the legislators are? Can't you give names?
Okay, so the next one, legislator number 2. She noted the tension in the room, how it broke her heart to hear that the police were feeling attacked, that there was a lack of trust, that how can they do their job with our criticism when they know they're doing their job so well? Not direct quote, that's paraphrasing.
Is that Walker?
That was a problem in her estimation. It was not that we were working off any concrete information. It was simply that we had an inherent distrust of police. Yeah. Another legislator. I feel a lot of tension in the room. I truly believe that the police, well, look, I've been around the community in every type of neighborhood. You have most of the support of our community. I would probably say about 90%. You were trained so well, I wish the whole nation had a training process like we did. I'm going to take a break here. Gothamist cited in an article a few months ago, there were over 144 civilian complaints filed against the police. When a complaint goes to the police, as Susan mentioned, they get to investigate themselves. This will be a punchline anywhere else, but it is actual policy for the police. Of those 144 complaints, guess how many internal affairs determined to be founded complaints? 0. How do you guys know? All right. Now, in court, civil cases, well, I'm not quite, this is legal stuff out beyond me, but of the outside of internal affairs, dozens of these same cases were brought to court and were determined to be founded. So there's a huge disparity here. Now, these are just complaints we know about. In this hearing, Commissioner Ryder even cited, I believe, almost 10 officers that he dismissed for reasons unknown. They would not say, these were not documented. This is a police department that we know has incredible racial disparities in policing. And so we're only left to imagine what would cause a commissioner that thinks it's completely fine to say he cannot hire black officers because they come from broken families. That's his standard. And he dismissed officers. So I don't want to imagine what happened, but it's something we need to face, and it's something we won't know about until more light is shed. So I'm going to end with what another legislator said after hearing about how the police had not even met their requirements that they had set for them. I can't think of a better legacy for Mr. George Floyd than to hear that we're a better police in Nassau County because of the horrible tragedy that happened to him. Even though I feel that our department would handle that differently. They ended with saying, assuring the police that this hearing, a public safety hearing, was not meant to put him on the hot seat. That is the legislator's job. The police will remind us that Nassau County is the safest county in the U.S. They're happy to cite that stat.
Safe for who?
Safe for who? Every single arrest, stop, use of force, everything we don't know about, those don't get reported. Those are crimes that we don't know about. And that's on us to fight against. All right, so next, I'm going to let Darnell Velasquez speak. He is an organizer with New York Communities for Change. He's going to share a story. All right. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now.
So, my friend Jeremy, thank yous from the community for such a great job that the police are doing for us. So, you know what? I'll give them some thank yous. Okay. I want to say thank you to the Nassau Police for hunting down my brothers and sisters every night. I want to thank them for racially profiling people that look like me, people that look like my friends behind me. I want to thank them for making us feel like we have to have eyes in the back of our heads. I want to thank them for putting me in a cop car 2 years ago, for leaving work in my uniform and putting me in a precinct, blasting music in the background so I can't hear them search my car. This is the true story, by the way. But again, this is not on paper. I was given a public possession of marijuana charge for leaving work at the wrong time. But I'm still here. I'm still alive. I'm a lucky guy. I was told, quote unquote, if you don't get out of this car, this will get worse for you. Quote unquote. And these are the amazing cops that want thank yous from us. So I'll say thank you for sparing my life, since that's the threshold that we're on now. Apparently surviving a traffic stop is a privilege at this point. Why are we here? Why is this our reality? Why is this our normal? This shouldn't be okay. It shouldn't be okay, but yet
Not okay.
we were on the street 2 years ago. We took over Mineola, and we're here again. Another name, another death, more pain, more suffering, and it's hard, you know, because we are already dealing with life. We have student loan debt. We have medical debt. We have issues of housing. People can't find jobs. People can't find their own dignity. And yet we still got to worry about the people we pay taxes to quote unquote protect us every day. When is this going to stop? Do they want us to break glass? Do they want us to fight back physically? Or do they want us to just stand here, take pictures, and go home? Do they want us to protest economically? Should we go on strike? What's next? I want to ask y'all the same questions. We should have these conversations we should have these conversations every day. Every day. Because every day we don't have these combos, somebody else dies. This time we got lucky. Well, not lucky. This time it was put in the news. This time it was so brutal that we just couldn't look away. But why does somebody have to get beat to death? Why? This just, I can't wrap my mind around this because I'm 24 years old. I've never known a world without police brutality. Since the moment I was in high school, I was in the March for Our Lives when people got shot up in schools. These stories are normal now. This is sensationalized now. There was a countdown for this video to come out of this man getting beat to death. People were anticipating violence and anticipating anger because they knew what they did. But they also know they'll get away with it unless we change that. So if we don't put our minds together and our passion and say, you know what, like, I have nothing to lose at this point. Let's go all the way. Let's go for the whole loaf. Because if we go for the little bits and pieces, okay, we'll put body cameras. We'll make sure they can't turn them off. But we still have qualified immunity. So what's the point of cameras if you can't even charge them for what they do? And another point, do y'all remember a few months ago, all the cries of bail reform and criminals getting put in the streets that shouldn't be put there? But yet, rapists and murderers get paid time off for doing what they're doing. And people get badges and put into new precincts. They get little slaps on the wrist for killing somebody, taking a life of somebody who was a father, a brother, a sister, somebody who had value. Because we're all human, we have the same value. So why aren't we valued the same under the eyes of the law? Why? That has to change, and we have to be the ones to do that. My name is Darren Velasquez. I am with New York Communities for Change. Come talk to us, talk to the other orgs up here, talk to your friends. Let's inform each other. That's step one. Inform your neighbors and your peers. Show them your anger and let them feel it so that hopefully they can come with you. Because unfortunately, we're in this world where unless we have that first folks to do it, others won't follow. So take that step, you know, swallow your pride, be the first person up here. And I'm so proud of y'all for being here first off, you know. But this has to keep going. It can't just be today. Let's do this, y'all. Thank you for listening to me. I'm going to end this right here, okay? Solidarity forever. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Danielle. All right, so just a reminder, before you go, if you did not stop by that table at some point, if you did not sign up for some list, you're not finished, okay? Now, to close us out, I'm going to have Fred Brewington. He's a co-convener of Long Island Advocates for Police Accountability. Fred, come on up.
No justice?
No peace.
No justice?
No peace!
No justice?
No peace!
If there is no justice, there can be no peace. And we're not talking about peace in the streets. And I want my brothers in blue to come a little closer. We want you to be part of the conversation. We're not talking about peace in the streets. We're talking about peace in the legislative suites. We're talking about peace in the courtrooms. We're talking about peace in the hearts of the people that care the most about the people who are being impacted the most. We are at a time and a crossroads in America when America is confused. Let me tell you why. Right over here, make sure before you leave, come up and look at these things, because facts speak truth. We have a boss, a commissioner in the county of Nassau that believes that race has no basis in how policing is done in Nassau County. If you read what they just took away that I was going to read, a question was asked by African-American member of the legislature, Carrie A. Salages. A question was asked about this statistic, that for every one white person that was arrested, and we need to talk about this, every one white person that was arrested in the year 2019, 5.3 African Americans were arrested. Let me say that again. For every one white person arrested, 5.3 African Americans were arrested. Yet African Americans are 10% of the population.
Wow.
Say that again?
Yeah.
African Americans are 10% of the population, yet they more than 5 times made up the amount of individuals that went in the back of police cars. People are promoted on the backs of the 1st and the 5th precinct. People go there. It's an active precinct, the 1st precinct. It's got Uniondale, it's got Freeport, it's got Roosevelt. And there are young black men right now in Roosevelt that are afraid to come out of their house because they're going to get rousted.
Amen.
We need to speak about these things because America is saying that 5 black officers beat a black man, and therefore race is not an issue.
It's over, right?
America is confused because we're not talking about black officers and white officers. We're talking about institutions and systems that systematically make it okay to kill a young black man. When we get confused, it's easy to go for the okie doke. And if you don't know what the okie doke is, it's I tell you anything I want you to hear, and you just go, okie doke. We're not going for the okie doke anymore because we need to speak to a commissioner when asked by a legislator. And the original question was, would you agree that there is a disproportionate number of African Americans who are arrested compared to black people? That was the original question. And this is the dialogue. Commissioner Ryder says, again, we base all of our arrests on probable cause. Once probable cause has been committed, which is not accurate, but a crime has been committed. Legislator Carrie A. Salages, an elected legislator by the people in the county of Nassau in his district who represents a largely black and brown district, asked this question: how can you be in a position to change history if if you're not even acknowledging it? Listen to the question. Work with me, Mr. Szilagyi said. And this is why we can never get to it, because they don't want to talk about it. The head of the legislature, Legislator Nicolello, say his name.
Nicolello.
Call him and ask him why he said this. He's not answering that question. He told an elected legislator who represented black and brown people to shut up. He told an African American legislator representing black and brown people who had a reason to ask a simple and educated question to shut your mouth, boy. And if it wasn't said with those words, it was said with the intent. And we can't be fooled with today. Those fighters, they were African American, but they were also part of a culture that created them. For those of you who don't know your history, on the plantation there were black slaves, black members of the master's house that were called drivers. And it was their job because they were given an enormous amount of power and authority. And they were given the responsibility of reporting back to the master to keep the plantation workers in line. And if you don't believe me, I just want to let you know that I don't come uninformed. I made sure that I did my history work. And when we look at American heritage, or we look at Smithsonian, or we look at any of the reporting houses that we respect, we get articles that talk about the men in the middle, because that's what those officers are. Their actions were seriously wrong. There's no question. The fact that swiftness came upon them faster than any law enforcement officer I've ever seen is another question. Yeah. But because they're the men in the middle, this is what our friend Randall Miller, who wrote back in 1979. We need to understand 79, some of us were just, I won't say coming out of high school, but this is what he writes. None of these men in the middle has been more misunderstood than the slave driver. They were policemen of the fields. They were policemen of the quarters. They kept those that were possibly concerned in line. To enforce discipline and guarantee performance in the fields, planters enlisted slave foremen or drivers. On large plantations, they worked as assistants to white overseers. On smaller units, they served immediately under the master. Generally, they were of an imposing physical presence. You saw those officers, right? The Scorpions, the special drivers. And they were physically imposing, capable of commanding respect from the other slaves because of what they wore and what they looked like and the good shoes and boots that they had. Ex-slaves from the Slave Chronicles described the drivers as a great big colored man, a large tall black man, a burly fellow, severe and extreme. Sound like a Scorpion to you? Armed with a whip and outfitted in high leather boots and a great long coat, all emblematic of plantation authority. The driver exuded an aura of power. We need to learn from our history. We need to be informed, black, white, yellow, brown, polka dot, wearing blue and wearing orange. We need to not be fooled into this sense of complacency, thinking that it's all right to come to a rally and say, that's terrible. Lifeboat, Long Island United, UJPLI, in qualified immunity. All of these things are not just fads, they are necessary. We came because Tyre Nichols was murdered. We came to be in family and community together, to support people that have gone through it, to support our young people that are now going through it. Because right now, I'm telling you, there's a young man walking down Nassau Road in Roosevelt that's afraid when he hears the chirping of a car or sees the colors of orange and blue on a car of white. It shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that when I get pulled over that knows the Constitution probably better than most of America, that my heart pumps Kool-Aid because I know it could be my last time. It shouldn't be that way. America should not allow the people that had their country built on their backs live in fear and live in concern. So I'm calling on everybody, and I'm calling on Mr. Ryder and Mr. Blakeman to call somebody up here tomorrow and make an appointment with us, because we're ready to meet. We're ready to talk, because we brought solutions. We brought reason. We brought study. We brought hard work. Blood and sweat went into creating the People's Plan. And if you don't know it, look it up. Go on any of the websites, Life Club, UJPLI, or Long Island United, and go on their website, read the People's Plan, and demand of your legislators. Don't ask. Demand of your legislators that they take the People's Plan and put it into force. Take the People's Plan and make it part of who we are. Because I have been to too many funerals of young black men and brown men that will never see their children and never see the opportunity to grow old. It's not fair. It's not right. It's not just. And it's not who we should be. Right. Tyre Nichols is not with us. I'm going to ask you to take your phones out. And if you've got a lamp on your phone, we're going to do a lamp vigil right now. I ask you to hold the light up high. Hold the light up high for the lost life of Tyre Nichols, for the life that has been snuffed out. Because we as America and Nassau County and Suffolk County refuse to recognize that Black Lives Matter. And we refuse to discuss the meaning of Black Lives Matter. And that we refuse to understand that those officers that beat the life of another living human being did not themselves understand that Black Lives Matter. Tyre Nichols, you are looking down on us right now. That's my belief. We say your name together. Tyre Nichols. Tyre Nichols. Tyre Nichols. Tyre Nichols.
And when we say that name, just like we said George Floyd, don't let it be the last time that you say it here. Because there are many people who stood on the front line during COVID and said Black Lives Matter and say his name, George Floyd, that haven't uttered that in the past 5 months. This cannot be a sometimesy thing. If we want change, we've got to fight for it.
Yep.
So as we remember this young man and his life, I ask you to also remember this young man and his death. Because his death cannot be, his death should not be, his death cannot be in vain. Tyree.
All right, so one last word from Susan Goddard before we finish up.
I just wanted to thank everybody for coming, and I also would like to enlist your help. We have heard narratives that have been ridiculous, not based in fact, regarding a lot of criminal justice reform, and we need to take back this narrative. Community safety, please be the carriers of this message. Community safety, public safety, is not built on over-policing Black and brown neighborhoods and incarcerating people. You have heard this around policing, bail, parole, every aspect of the criminal justice system. It is time to start talking about community safety and public safety in a different way. You can be the carriers of this message. And community safety is when we give communities resources, not more police in their streets. It's when we give communities education, when we give communities employment opportunities, when we support communities, not when we guard against some communities and protect others. That is the new narrative. Carry it forward, everybody. Enough is enough. Thank you so much for coming tonight.
No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace.
Rest in peace, Tyree.
Folks, please share this post far and wide. Kevin McKenna, we will not be silenced.